In 1450, Rome was a city of contrasts, where the grandeur of papal palaces and magnificent churches coexisted with the grinding struggle of ordinary citizens. Beyond the marble monuments and frescoed halls, daily life for the majority of Romans was defined by relentless labour, hunger, and the constant necessity to navigate a world without modern comforts. The narrow, cobbled streets were lined with modest homes, workshops, and market stalls, where the smells of cooking, smoke, and refuse mingled into a heavy, ever-present haze. Life here was survival, measured not in luxury or leisure, but in the ability to endure one day after another. From the earliest light of dawn, the city stirred with activity. Families awoke in small, cramped quarters where several generations often shared a single room. The poorest had no beds. They slept on cold stone or packed straw, huddling under coarse blankets to keep warm during the winter months. For these Romans, the day began with immediate labour. Water had to be fetched from the Tiber River or public fountains, carried in heavy ceramic jugs and sometimes contaminated by the city's growing filth. Food preparation was a constant task, grinding grain into flour, baking coarse bread in communal ovens, or cooking thin soups made from vegetables and legumes. Meat was rare and often reserved for festivals, religious holidays, or the occasional slaughtered goat or pig. The streets themselves were a theatre of survival. Narrow alleys twisted between towering buildings, often shaded and dark, where children played amid the mud and refuse, oblivious to danger. Market squares bustled with merchants selling everything from fresh bread to salted fish, cheese, herbs, and imported delicacies for those who could afford them. Haggling was not merely a social activity, but a skill of survival. The ability to negotiate could mean the difference between eating that day or going hungry. Beggars and street vendors competed for limited resources, while pickpockets and petty thieves moved through the crowds, preying on the unwary. Every trip to the market, every walk along the street was a negotiation with both chance and necessity. Labor in medieval Rome was exhausting and omnipresent. Artisans, blacksmiths, cobblers, coopers, and weavers worked long hours in cramped workshops, their hands blistered from repetitive tasks. Farmers, living within the city's outskirts or nearby villages, managed small plots of land, tending crops, feeding livestock, and maintaining tools. Every task was essential, for failure could mean starvation or illness. Children contributed early to this struggle, running errands, tending animals, or assisting parents in workshops. Education was a luxury. Survival skills, however, were taught daily and rigorously. Hunger and food insecurity shaped the rhythm of life. Bread was the staple, often coarse and heavy, supplemented by thin soups or pottage made from grains, legumes, and the occasional vegetable. Preservation techniques, salting, drying, or smoking, allowed families to stretch their provisions, yet shortages were common. Bad harvests, rising prices, or political instability could turn ordinary days into desperate hunts for sustenance. Those who could not work had no safety net. Illnesses like dysentery, smallpox, or fevers often claimed lives, reducing households to fewer hands and fewer meals. Survival, therefore, depended as much on ingenuity and resilience as on physical labor. Women's daily lives were marked by endless tasks that were physically demanding and unceasing. They managed households, cooked over smoky hearths, washed clothes by hand, fetched water, and cared for children. Hygiene was rudimentary. Bathing was infrequent, and waste disposal relied on simple methods that contributed to the city's unsanitary conditions. Women also participated in markets, selling goods, bartering for necessities, or working as seamstresses or laundresses. Their labor was indispensable, and their ability to manage both household and economic survival often determined the well-being of the entire family. The social fabric of the city played a vital role in survival. Families, neighbours, and guild networks created informal safety nets. Knowledge of the city, its markets, the best times to fetch food, safe routes through alleys, and which merchants were reliable was critical. Patronage, alliances, and small favours often determined whether a household could endure times of scarcity. Public charity from churches or monasteries occasionally provided bread or alms, yet this was sporadic and often insufficient. In many ways, survival was as much a social skill as it was a matter of physical endurance.
Even the natural environment presented challenges. Winters were bitter, and poor families often struggled to keep their homes warm. Firewood was expensive, and many relied on public ovens or fireplaces shared among multiple families. During the summer, heat, dust, and the stench of crowded streets aggravated living conditions, while contamination of water and food supplies led to outbreaks of disease. The Tiber River, a vital source of water, was also a conduit for waste and infection, and flooding could destroy crops, homes, and market goods. To survive, Romans had to be adaptable, resilient, and constantly vigilant. Religious life provided both structure and occasional relief. Daily prayers, mass attendance, and observance of feast days were central to life, yet also demanded time and resources. Festivals provided rare occasions of respite, offering food, entertainment, and communal gathering, but they also highlighted inequality. The wealthier citizens enjoyed lavish meals and festivities, while the poor often watched or scavenged from leftovers. Religion was intertwined with survival, offering hope, guidance, and sometimes charity in a world where material resources were scarce. The night brought its own perils. Streets emptied of legitimate commerce became avenues for crime. Bandits and thieves targeted travellers and the unwary, while stray animals scavenged among refuse. Families huddled in small rooms or crowded inns, sleeping lightly, ever alert to the dangers of both human and environmental threats. Fires burned low in hearths, smoke curling through cracks in walls, and the smell of cooking or decay lingered in the air. Sleep was always tempered by hunger, illness, and fear. Survival extended beyond labour and into vigilance through every hour of the day. Despite these hardships, ordinary Romans developed strategies to endure. They shared food, repurposed worn clothing, repaired broken tools, and cultivated small home gardens wherever possible. Apprentices learnt trades not only for future prosperity, but for immediate contribution to household survival. Markets were more than commerce. They were centres of intelligence, rumour, and opportunity, where shrewd negotiation could secure the next meal. Survival was a skill learned in every street, every workshop, and every household, passed from parent to child and neighbour to neighbour. By the end of the day, when labour ceased and markets closed, the struggle for survival did not fully end. It only shifted. Fires burned low, children slept, and families whispered prayers for safety and sustenance. The city, illuminated by moonlight and flickering lamps, was quiet, but still alive, with the unseen struggles of those too poor to rest peacefully. Hunger, exhaustion, and the constant threat of disease defined their world, yet their resilience and ingenuity ensured that life persisted. The daily reality of medieval Rome, 1450, was not measured in comfort or leisure, but in the capacity to endure, adapt, and survive against constant odds. Through this lens, history is revealed not only in monumental events, but in the everyday realities of ordinary people. The unrecorded struggles of street vendors, artisans, women, children, and labourers form the untold story of the city. Their lives were a tapestry of work, endurance, and social negotiation, where survival required intelligence, strength, and community
as much as physical effort. The fight for food, shelter, and safety was continuous, a reminder that the medieval world, for all its grandeur and history, was ultimately a world of relentless survival for most of its inhabitants.